Well, some of it got in the tub. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, where money is no object because I don't have any. We're here with the Miata, and since I've completed the last stage of the Miata build, it has proven itself to be the most reliable car that I own by a long shot. That said, the summer and commuting over the summer has presented just a couple of little problems. So first up, I had some problems with the air conditioning and I resolved that. And then there was a belt squeal from the air conditioning and I just went ahead and fixed that off camera. All I had to do is replace the belt. That's good and boring. But while I was going to change that belt, on the way to the auto parts store, I'm sitting at a stoplight and the car starts to overheat. That's obviously not good. The following week, my wife was commuting to work, and she also noticed the temperature creeping up a little bit. Now, the thing is that as soon as you start moving again, the temperature goes right back down, so it's really not that big of a deal. I don't think that heat is completely soaking through the entire engine. That just got me thinking maybe it's time to do the coolant reroute upgrade from FLYIN MIATA. First reason is because I've got a slight leak at the back of the engine where FLYIN MIATA wants you to relocate this thermostat. So I've got to open it up anyway. The other reason is because I really want this car to be bulletproof reliable. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, well, spec Miatas, they race all day long. They don't have to do this. Well, I got to tell you one thing. Spec Miatas don't sit in traffic. This car needs to be able to sit in traffic. It needs to just handle abuse and to not really think about it and not worry about it because it's got to get someone who is not a car person to work and back. And because I can't afford a new car, this is the option I'm going with. We're going to upgrade the cooling system to use a FLYIN MIATA coolant reroute. And hopefully that will solve this problem. And it will also give a little bit better cooling to the whole system overall. This is a well-documented problem with the first generation Miata. The back of the motor, the number 4 cylinder, gets really hot, like significantly hotter than the front of the motor where the thermostat is. So by relocating the thermostat to the back, it will open up a little bit earlier when the back of the motor, when its hottest point, reaches 180 degrees. That's when the thermostat will open. And also, this thing comes with a bleeder valve, which will mean that I can more effectively get air bubbles out of the system, which I believe has been a problem that has plagued this car since I built this. So let's get right into it. I've already opened up the box, but I want to show you all the components. We're going to read through the instructions, or at least, as far as I care to, and then we'll get started on this project. So this is the box that it comes in. Everything comes in bags that are really clearly labeled. I actually really appreciate this because it tells you, for the most part, what's what and what to put where. That's kind of cool. I'm not exactly sure what all of this is at this point, but it does have some really good instructions that we'll be going through in just a minute. You see here, they have like nice little details, FLYIN MIATA on the part. The good news, the good thing about this is that if I were to ever get rid of this car, there would be no doubt where I got these parts, and that they have a really good reputation for high quality parts, so they would know that I did the right thing to this car, that I didn't do some ghetto ass hack. There's a bunch of hardware. Here's another block off plate. I think this is for the front of the motor. A adapter hose, which is clearly labeled. It's pretty obvious what it is. I'm not sure that they even needed to label that, but it comes with this little extension. So the idea is you're going to put this on the radiator, stick this little extension on here, clamp this to that, and this will run to the back of the motor. This very long, yeah. Sorry, Mom. This is a hose bracket. That's cool because most conversions or this type of work doesn't even come with brackets to support the stuff that you're relocating. this comes with it. That's really, really cool. Sticker, so you can add 5 horsepower to your car. We'll go put that on our workbench in just a minute. And then this is a really, 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 really nice thermostat housing. This is where the magic happens. So thermostat goes here. This is where the big long dong connects. And we've got ports for bleeder. I believe this is bleeder. And we also have heater core in and out. It's one of these. We'll figure out what's what in just a minute, but the finish on this thing is really, really nice. This is way better than this car deserves. And then we've got a thermostat. And this is, let's see, what does it say? 180 degree thermostat. So this is going to open up at 180 degrees, which is really nice because on really, really, really hot days, like pretty much every day in Southern California, especially with global climate change, it's only going to get worse. So we need to be able to handle the temperatures of a dying planet. And 180 degrees should help us do that. And then lastly, we've got the instructions. And one of the things I appreciate about the instructions is that they've got nice paper. It's not the cheap paper that's going to absorb every spot and every fingerprint and every drop of oil and be ruined before you even start your project. This is cool. One of the things I noticed about the FLYIN MIATA instructions is that they kind of make no assumptions about your knowledge. And I appreciate that, not just because I'm a moron, but because there are people that are even less versed than I am in auto mechanics, and this leaves nothing up to guessing. This leaves no guesswork. This leaves, they explain literally every step of the way in exhausting detail what you need to remove to get to this thing, what tools you need, and how to modify the gasket. This is great. So if I screw this up, I am a complete idiot. I'm a complete idiot. And it's probably because I'm not going to read the instructions all the way through. Probably because I'm going to miss something, I'm going to miss some detail, and it'll be my fault. So let's get this car open. Let's start taking stuff off. And we really don't need these parts until we get our existing setup taken apart. I got the hood open. I've already removed the intake tube because it's pretty obvious that's the first thing you have to do. But beyond that, we're going to be working mainly right here and in the back of the engine. The back of the engine is where it's going to really suck. But in order to get started, we need to pull this hose off. We need to take this off. And then there is a fan switch that I am not using that I'm really happy to be removing because I believe that is at least one of the sources of my leak. And I'm going to bring the camera around to show you why I think that's the case. So you see down here where it's all nice and green? That's telling me that there's coolant leaking there. I'm not sure if it's from the sensor itself, the threads of the sensor, or if it's because there is a leak in the weld. It really could be either. I don't know why it's welded like that, but it's a really terrible weld, and it actually also could be the source of the leak. So I'm really happy to be pulling this off. Not really happy about the mess I'm about to make. I think I want to drop the plastic mud guard at the bottom of the car so that this all dumps straight down into, and hopefully most of it makes it into my collection tray, because otherwise it's going to go onto the splash guard and it's just going to run out the back all over the floor of the garage. So why don't I take that off, and then we'll go into kind of like a time lapse of me ripping this stuff apart. Once I take this off, I have to take the coil pack off, and then that will give me access to the stuff in back, and I'll check in with you back then. right, now here's where the fun begins, and you can use your own interpretation of fun, because I certainly am. Now I have to get back here and start undoing this stuff, and it as you can see, is pretty tight. This I could just move out of the way, that's fine. I got this thing which just slips right off, but then we got a couple of bolts back there, and then we've got the heater hose back there. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. And I'm not sure how I'm going to bring you in along this journey because it's kind of hard to see. You got this line in the way. Maybe I can do that. Yeah, we'll do that. And then you can kind of see what I'm doing.
What comes up must come down. You brought this country to the ground. Now some might call this bullshit free. Fuck that, not me. This was made me rip my hair out. This was messy what I scream. I'll show you what life's about. I'll burst the invisible dream. The bringer of chaos, spinning us lies, waking his victims for the second time. What happens when overcome with greed, rape and destruction of our liberty?
There you go, Scott. Texas Motorcycle Rider Adventures on my 20-ton press and up on my toolbox. Check out his channel, Texas Motorcycle Rider, if you're into Harleys and into motorcycles. He's a fun guy. All right, let's get back to work. So this is where it gets good. These instructions are actually really, really good because they tell you, you know, where you should use the plumbing tape and where you shouldn't, and how you should orient the thermostat. And this is really good instructions. So I'm just going to follow these instructions from here on out. We're going to take it slow. And if I have any the difficulties that I had back there, I'm just going to take a break because I don't want this car to piss me off. And there's really no need for it to piss me off. Speaking of things that pissed me off, let's go take a look at the back of the motor. So this is basically all I could see. And it is really hard to see, so I had to take my gloves off and just kind of do it by feel. I think, and you actually have a better view than I do because my head is much bigger than an iPhone. So I think I got just about all of the gasket material off. I'm going to spray it down with carb cleaner and wire brush it just a little bit before I continue forward, before I put anything on it. And I think we're going to be in good shape from there. And it looks like I took off a couple of things I did not need to take off, but I'm not worried about that at all. I'm still going to clean all of that up just the same, so that if I have another leak, I'll know where it's coming from.
Hey. When will all this madness stop? The man's a thief. I've just been robbed. These words made me rip my hair out. This was messy what I scream. I'll show you what life's about. I'll burst your invisible dream.
So I got it all together, and again, FLYIN MIATA did a great job with the instructions. They even provided a custom gasket, and it looks like they also provided a generic gasket if you screw it up. And they also have instructions on how to modify a generic gasket to fit the custom shape. So you'd have to cut out this little hole here, make a cut for another hole up here for the bleeder, and then cut out this slot. But luckily I didn't have to do that because I got this lined up all really, really nice. I still have to prep the surface for the back of the head, so I'm not going to put this on just yet. And in fact, the instructions want us to go to the front of the car and to put this block-off plate on. So let's go do that. So the block-off plate is installed. I have this plug here and this plug there. This plug is for the fan switch if you have one, and since I bypass my fan switch, I have my fans just running constant. I elected to just use the plug because why introduce another point of failure that could prevent your fans from turning on when you could just have them run constant? Especially in Los Angeles when you're sitting in traffic, pretty much any type of sitting in traffic is considered extreme driving. So you want these fans running when you're in an extreme driving circumstance, especially if it's 100 degrees and you're in traffic. In the back of the motor, I have cleaned up the mating surfaces. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Again, you can probably see better than I can. I did it by feel, basically. And I reconnected the stuff that I was not supposed to disconnect as part of this project. So you see that hose there? I put a second clamp on it when I was putting it back together because why not? And there was a plug there that I put back into the back of the block. Don't know what that plug was supposed to do, but it was there, so I replaced it. So next we just need to put the unit that I had built over on my workbench in the back here, and we may be on the downhill of this project.
American fucking
Well, I'm not exactly sure where recording stopped because my hard drive was full, but I did manage to get this installed. Let me be clear, it really cannot be overstated just how difficult that is. That is the hard part. This is a great product. FLYIN MIATA did a great job with it, but it is not easy to install, and I hope I never have to pull that thermostat. I would say that if you have the engine out of the car and you're thinking about doing this, you should do it. If you have the head off of the car and you're thinking about doing this, you should do it. Because it's really hard, and it's much better to just do it off of the car. That said, it is possible to do it in the car. It's just not a fun time when it's 105 degrees. It kind of cooled off because of the clouds, but now it's just hot and humid. So now it feels like I'm in Houston. So here you see I have added a little bit of hose around the hose, and that's because it was kind of bumping up against the intake manifold here, and I didn't want any kind of chafing. I was really concerned with chafing. You know, you can't really put a cream on that when you're talking about cars and you got chafing. So I was just following the route, and it looks like I may want to do a little something here. That's a little funky, but this, I think, you know, maybe I will just add a little bit to the radiator hose, because I would rather damage this stupid hose than the radiator hose. So I am going to add a little bit there. There was a bracket that came with this, but it was more trouble than it was worth. I was having a really hard time. I was trying to put it in here so that it could bracket the hose right here, but my God, it was really, really difficult. I think I'm going to add a little chunk of hose wrap around here, and maybe a little in the back here too. Just wrap the whole thing in a hose condom, you know. But yeah, this is done. I just have to now reinstall the coil pack and fill it with coolant and give it a try. Well, it's a lot cooler this morning, which is great for my comfort, but really bad for our test drive, considering this car was only overheating under very specific and very harsh conditions. That said, I'm not going to worry about it. I have it back together. I have the coil packs on, spark plugs in, and fixed all the wiring, and the car starts and runs. And I also adjusted the belt one more time because the AC belt, I guess, had loosened up over the last 100 miles, couple hundred miles, which is normal when you put a brand new belt on. So hopefully it doesn't squeak today, or I'm going to be really upset. So last night when I ran the car, there was a big pool of coolant underneath the car. And I believe that was actually from the work I was doing to it. So I mopped up, and now we're going to run the car for a bit and see if we have any leaks. When I put the light in at the back of the car, I didn't really see any evidence of leakage, so we're going to find out before we put this car back on the ground. Okay, so far there's no leaks. Everything looks pretty good. The car's still warming up, so let's pull it out, drive it around the block, and see if anything explodes on me just going around the block. If that's successful, then we're going to go across town and see how it does on an actual drive. So again, this problem is not something that happens at speed. It's not something that happens under load. So it's really not something that you're going to experience if you're a race car driver, if you track your car all day. So this is really a commuter problem. And really that's why I have no shame in overbuilding my car's cooling systems, because when you're in traffic, that's when you can afford the least to overheat. Because if you're, for example, stuck on a 7-lane freeway in either direction, like we have here in Southern California, Los Angeles area, and traffic is already moving 5 miles an hour, you don't want to be stopped in the middle of the road. There's a lot of freeways here, like the 101, that do not have shoulders. You can't pull off to the side. Your options are to stop in the middle of the road or stop in the middle of the road. That's it. And you are really, really screwed in those situations. That's where my wife broke down when we had the ignition problem a couple of months ago. So yeah, it was really, really bad. It was really scary. And they towed her off into one of the sketchiest neighborhoods I've been in a while. So you just don't want to break down. You don't want to have cooling problems on your commute. You just don't. It's the last place you want to have cooling problems. Because if you're, out at Willow Springs or whatever, it's 120 degrees and you're racing your car and you overheat, big deal. You just pack it in and you go home for the day. And then also, this is a commuter car. You have to depend on this. If your car breaks down, you can't go to work. So it's another reason why it is very, very, very important for me to just do as much as I can for the cooling system. If a 3-row radiator exists, I am buying it. I did that for the Jeep. I did that for this. Cooling fans run non-stop. I get the highest flow rate that I can find that'll fit the radiator that I'm building. And that's just how I do it. I have no problems spending that money. It's a worthwhile investment. So if you do follow my channel, which you should, I would really appreciate it if you did. If you do follow my channel, you might notice that I have not been able to post every single week. And I'm starting to realize that that's just not going to happen for the foreseeable future. I might get back to it, but right now my job takes me across town. My job takes me to the other side of one of the largest metropolises in the United States of America. LA is a city where you can still be in LA and be too far away from LA. That's the situation I'm in right now. I have to go 40 miles. It's 32 miles each way from the base of basically the San Gabriel Mountains, the foothills, all the way to the coast. So it's a long drive, and the traffic is really bad, and it's really hot, and I'm doing it on my motorcycle, and it just takes so much out of me. It's more than just time, because I make up for the time by riding a motorcycle. It takes so much energy out of me. I get home at the end of the day, and I can't move. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I can't move. So that's half my week. 3 days a week, that's basically half the week, because I have, half a day to prep, half a day to recover. And if I were to put out a video every single week, I would be pushing and struggling and straining myself. And that's just not fun. For these projects, these fun projects especially, that's just not fun. For jobs I have to do, for projects like this that I have to work on, that's a whole different story. This is something I have to fix this cooling system, or my wife can't go to work. But for fun projects like the Prelude, or anything that I don't necessarily really need to get around, I want to have fun. So you're probably gonna see twice a month is gonna be my cadence, I'm hoping. And during that time, I am really hoping that I can improve a little bit on production value. I'm hoping that I can get a little bit better at editing, and maybe if my financial situation ever improves, I have some friends that do professional editing that maybe they could use the work. And I don't think they watch my videos, so they won't know that this is coming, but I'm really hoping to someday have an editor or a couple of editors and put together some much higher quality videos for you guys. And I'm working on my own technique and my own equipment and things like that. Equipment, I'm stuck with this iPhone for a while until my financial situation turns around, because I can't buy a dedicated camera for filming. This is not even my personal iPhone. So, and it's an old iPhone. So I'm really hoping to improve just across the board, but it starts with being honest with myself and honest with my abilities, and keeping this dream alive, keeping this fun for me, so that hopefully it can be fun for you. So that is the install and testing of the FLYIN MIATA coolant reroute kit. I'm really happy I did it. It costs a little bit of money, but is well worth it in my opinion to have the most effective cooling in a commuter car possible. Again, not affiliated with them, but they sure earned my money this time around, as they have every time I've bought something from them. Incredible quality products, so you know, well worth the cost. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you think I should have kept this thing stock, maybe you think I wasted my money, leave a comment. Maybe you're from FLYIN MIATA and you have some tips and tricks for me. Let me know. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you again so much for watching. And remember, whenever you can, make it less crappy. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.